Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Oh, by the way, the Pennsylvania Medical Society has some ideas about how to speed up your medical treatment. Plus, we're going to have Brad Bumstead and Robert Swift. They're going to bring us up to date on what's going on in Pennsylvania politics and government. And we'll do all of that after these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, as you likely know, if you go to see a physician, there are prior authorizations that are often necessary to receive certain kinds of treatments. Dr. Charles Cutler, he's the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society, is sitting across from me. We're going to talk about that. They have some great ideas about how to speed up the process and not interfere, actually to help you get the treatment sooner. Do I got that about right?
Terry, you do. Your older viewers will remember a time when they went to the doctor and the doctor made a recommendation about a treatment or a medication, and patients were able to go to the hospital or to a testing center and get the treatment. Or go to the pharmacy and get the pills. But things have changed over the years, and the insurance companies, in order to cut costs, have created a new barrier. Mm-hmm. And the Pennsylvania Medical Society is worried about it because it interferes with patient access. I think the intention of the insurance companies was good. They wanted to be certain that patients got the treatments they really needed in a cost-effective manner. But unfortunately, the consequences are that patient access has been affected and hindered. And it's hard now for patients to get treatments. They may wait days or sometimes weeks to get a necessary treatment.
That's a great point. So the point is that you add hours to the time in which you can get the treatment, and you add expense to the your overall medical bill.
Totally true, Terry. And it's a shame for the patients, because when the doctor tells you there's something wrong, you want it resolved as soon as possible. And if you're waiting for days and weeks, the anxiety level can be very, very high.
Yeah.
But there's another aspect to it also, and that happens to involve the physicians. I'm a primary care doctor, and I may spend an hour or even 2 hours a week doing pre-authorizations on the phone with the insurance company. So what's the effect for my patients? Well, when they call, there may be no visits for them on a given day because that's the day that I'm on the phone talking to the insurance company.
Only so many hours in a day, right? Days in a week to get the job done. And you want to see the patients, right? I know it's probably the least popular thing in your life is to do. I mean, we realize it's important, but you have to do it, but that's not why you became a doctor, right?
Exactly. So the Pennsylvania Medical Society has some suggestions. One of the problems is that there is very little, virtually no transparency in the process. We don't know what the insurance companies are using for their guidelines, why they approve one procedure and possibly reject another procedure. There's no standardization. So we want to see standardization across the insurance companies from Pennsylvania. One insurance company may approve a procedure, and the next one may not. The same procedure, the same situation.
We as patients go through that too. You know, we're not sure from one day to the next what's going to be covered and how much it's going. And it is complicated. And I notice here that there was a survey done by the AMA, American Medical Association, of a couple thousand physicians, and 2/3 of them reported waiting several days to receive prior authorization to hand out a drug.
Incredible, to a patient. And with all of the computers and the way we can move information these days, there's simply no reason, at least in the mind of the doctors in the Pennsylvania Medical Society, that we should be waiting as long as we do for authorization.
Now, there's a bill in the state legislature that will be introduced, that has been introduced by Representative Marguerite Quinn, and it's intended to streamline that process. Just give me a couple of the major points of that bill for our viewers.
Well, as I was saying, and a shout out to Representative Quinn for recognizing the problem, but it will open up the process. It will create transparency. and it will speed up the process so that there aren't endless delays. And the doctors, if this bill is passed, will understand what the standards are for a given insurance company and across the system what the different insurance companies rely on in terms of making a determination.
You're not saying let's get rid of authorization. That's not your point.
That's true. Yes.
Pick up on that.
That's true. We recognize that costs are high these days, and there is waste in the system, and we want to eliminate that waste.
Okay.
And to the extent that prior authorization does eliminate unnecessary care, the physician members of the Pennsylvania Medical Society are all for it. Okay. But we don't want barriers to care either.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I'm going to ask the doctor about the behind the scenes, what happens in a physician office when this process gets underway. And we'll do that in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, now celebrating 100 years as the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
I'm talking with Dr. Charles Cutler. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society. We're talking about how to streamline and eliminate some of the burdensome requirements before a patient can receive treatment. This is pretty important. We've all gone through a measure of that when we've gone in to see our doctor when we wanted to get, when he prescribed a drug or when we wanted to get a certain treatment that we have to get a referral for. So give me an example of how this works.
I'll see a patient, Terry, make a recommendation for a test, and then I have to notify the insurance company. And the insurance company will ask for all sorts of data, demographic information, a diagnosis, and there'll be a first-level review. Now, that can take a few hours or a few days,
right.
And then a determination will be made. If the insurance company agrees with me, we're set to go. But if the insurance company doesn't agree, they'll call back. They'll want more information.
Right.
We'll fill out another form, send more information over. Again, if they agree on the second level review, we're set to go.
Yeah. Now,
but if they say no, based on the first and second level review, we don't approve it, then I have to get on the phone. And finding somebody on the phone these days
is not
1-800 push 1, push 2.
We've all been through that, right? We've all been through that.
It can be an endless phone call, simply getting the right person on the phone to do the review.
So your point is that you understand that a certain amount of that is necessary and proper and important to curtail costs, et cetera, but you think the pendulum has shifted too far in one direction and you're trying to find a balance. Does that pretty well summarize the point?
Exactly, yeah. We recognize there are reasons for this, but we need to work on it and make it better.
All right, before you get out of here, I want to ask you about this insurer credentialing that physicians have to go through. It's a lengthy process. What's the situation there that concerns the medical society?
Well, this has a common edge to what we were talking about before. Credentialing historically was done relatively rapidly, but over the years, despite all of the computers that we now have, credentialing a new doctor to participate in an insurance company or with an insurance plan takes a long time, and we don't understand why. Our physician members are all credentialed by the state of Pennsylvania, licensed, but to participate with the insurance companies, there are seemingly endless delays. So a new doctor comes to town, perhaps there's a shortage of physicians in his or her specialty, and that doctor can wait months. Not weeks, months, to be able to participate with the insurance company.
So there's an analogy here to the issue we were just talking about. It's understandable that there has to be credentialing, but why does it have to, can't you streamline the process? Does it have to take so long?
Yeah. So
the growth of bureaucracy, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the Pennsylvania Medical Society feels that a month is reasonable. And if a month goes by and a physician has a license to practice and there are no red flags in that month, that physician should be granted temporary privileges with the insurance company. And then the insurance company can continue to investigate and to go through their process. And if they find a problem, deal with it at that point. But at least allow the physician, after a month's delay, the opportunity to practice, to see patients, and to help the community where he or she is.
Before I let you go, seasonal health topics. What do you have to do? I think it involves, am I doing this right?
You are.
Go through what you think people have to be aware of.
Well, you know, so often we wish folks a happy and healthy new year, and the Pennsylvania Medical Society is all about a healthy new year.
Yes, you are.
So the fall is the time to get a flu vaccine.
Flu vaccine.
Really important. Every year,
I get mine.
You should get a flu vaccine. Unless you have some very rare allergy, which almost never happens.
Pneumonia?
But if you're 65 or older, you should get a pneumonia vaccine, yes. You should be updated every 10 years for tetanus. Whooping cough has made a resurgence. So pertussis, you should be protected with that vaccine. So shingles is an important one.
You don't want to get shingles.
So while your viewers are making resolutions for the new year,
there you go.
The resolution to make is preventive care and get updated.
Great update. Thanks for coming in. All right, coming up, we have Brad Bumstead and Robert Swift. They're going to bring us up to date on all things going on. Well, the legislature is not in session. We'll talk a little bit about politics. You don't want to miss this. We'll see you in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania, and by the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance, representing companies involved in America's most affordable, reliable energy source. To learn more, visit pacoalalliance.com.
Welcome back. Well, now we're going to turn to Pennsylvania politics and government. Robert Swift sitting across from me, Times Shamrock Newspapers. Brad Bumstead, he's a state capitol reporter for the LNP Media Group. And you're doing something else, aren't you?
Yes, I'm the bureau chief there. We have a 3-person team, and it's for a publication that LNP is launching in January. It'll be called The Caucus.
The Caucus.
And it'll be a print weekly. They're going to print, and it won't be online, and it's subscriber-based, but the point of it will be focusing on investigative reporting. So it's different both from the respect of a new print publication and investigative reporting, which is usually cut back.
There you go. All right, here we go. We got the governor's race is underway. We have a number of prospective candidates. Tell the folks out. I know Governor Wolf has to decide. We think he's running for re-election. He hasn't formally declared yet. 2018. He's told at least one radio talk show host, I understand, that he will run. So what's going on here?
We got this prospect developing, and it may not totally happen, of potentially having the many state legislative leaders, lawmakers who were leaders of their caucuses running for governor since 1978.
Right.
And this is, right now we're talking about the House Majority Leader Dave Reed, who said he's open to considering governor, U.S. Senate, and even a congressional seat. We got Majority Leader Senate Majority Corman, House Speaker Turzai, all
House Speaker,
potentially,
yeah.
all potentially in the mix.
And Scott Wagner, senator, who is not a leader, but he has enormous power in the Senate, and also former Lieutenant Governor Jim Cawley.
Now, we have one announced candidate, and that's Scott Wagner, right? He's already announced. He's going around the state in attacking Governor Wolf, particularly on the unemployment compensation issue, closing down some unemployment compensation. He's the only declared candidate, right?
Well, I don't know that he's formally declared, but he's been running the past year.
Yeah.
I think
he's out there open. Yeah.
Sure.
I think he has.
Yeah.
So, in the midst of a governor's race that is starting, it probably started the moment that Governor Wolf was elected. You know how that goes. But I'll start with you, and then I'll let Brad jump in. The state is going to have one of the toughest budget seasons that we've seen in several years.
Right, because what I call the chronic budget problems that started in 2009 with the recession, we're still in, and right now the deficit's stubborn. It's not, it's hanging out there, and also the solution so far, they sort of, been going through the cupboard there, and there's not a lot of, they tried some solutions, they've avoided some like big tax hikes, but now they're getting, into what are you going to do?
So here's the point. The Independent Fiscal Office, that's the office that says this is the budget, this is where the money coming in, this is the money going out, $500 million looks like, $1.7 billion structural deficit, a $50 billion pension problem, and big taxes are off the table, right?
At this point.
They are off the table, according to Majority Leader Dave Reed, who's a potential candidate for governor. So, when you look at this, it as RB pointed out yesterday, we were talking about it, can either make the budget situation worse or better, depending on how it works out. But I think that the safe predictions are that not all of these people will run. The other safe prediction is that Wagner will run.
Yeah.
But the impact on the budget could be, the constant feuding with Wolf could, put this off beyond worse than it was in 2015.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And the danger part for any of these guys who may want to run is that the school districts and the nonprofits are weakened from the fight of 2015, so they don't have the ability to last without state aid like they did before, and that was compromised. So if they start getting a school district closing down, say it's in their bailiwick region of the state, that could be make it very difficult for them.
So your bigger point, and you both are in agreement, I think, is the governor's race is going to have an impact on the budget because it's going to make it more difficult, to reach a compromise, and there may be, Brad, some niche taxes that are necessary.
It could come to that. They've only ruled out broad-based taxes.
Broad-based taxes are out. No, both of you agree. Wolf's not going to ask for an income or sales tax hike this year.
I don't see it happening. It's the one thing they have not done since 2009, the one big option that has not been done because it was always blocked. Now, the problem with the niche tax is, some of them they've already done, cigarettes, and they still have part of the budget undone, gambling expansion.
And you raise taxes on cigarettes too high, people won't buy them, they'll quit, and then the revenue goes down.
You got it. All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come up, we're going to talk about public corruption, another politician convicted and sentenced. We'll talk with Brad and Robert about that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, advancing quality, improving lives. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Business Council and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Brad Bumstead has written Keystone Corruption Continues, and Robert Swift has written the epilogue. This is the second volume in probably a series. I'm looking at Brad. He's got to now write a third volume about corruption in Pennsylvania politics. And Congressman Chaka Fattah, convicted a couple of months ago, was sentenced. He got 10 years. We're talking about bribery and, in a sense, taking. He had a $600,000 campaign debt. He used money illegally, basically, to help pay off that debt. Is that right?
He did, and he was charged with the RICO, the Corrupt Influence Act that
right.
Federal prosecutors can use, which allows them to go just about anywhere with things. Look, he was one of the most prominent members of Congress for Pennsylvania, had been a former legislator in Pennsylvania. Maybe that's where he learned his craft. I don't know. But now, look, the guy, for this to happen, his son was also
he's
convicted.
in prison.
Yeah. But the sentence is what's stunning here, the 10-year sentence on corruption for Chaka Fattah. It is huge. And
I think I read, Brad, and Robert, it's the second largest sentence given to a member of Congress.
I can believe that. And it's twice as long as the sentence that former Senate power broker Vincent Fumo got, which was up to 5 years. He didn't serve that. And Fattah, if this is upheld, won't serve 10 years. He'll serve less. But, I'm sure that sentence will be an issue at appeal.
Yeah. Now, Robert, look, 2012, the voters elect 3 statewide office holders. 2 of them, Rob McCord, State Treasurer, the Attorney General of the state, Kathleen Kane, both convicted of felonies, and one has been sentenced. One has not been sentenced yet. Is this pattern continuing?
This pattern of these corruption in these row officers it now has a streak going back to the 1970s, especially in these Attorney General, Treasurer's Office. And the Auditor General's Office has been touched by this too, but not recently. But these offices don't get a lot of attention from the voters, yet especially with the Treasurer's Office, tremendous financial power, dealing with banks and lending firms, and they sort of go under the radar.
They're under the radar, yeah. And the other thing is that I've made this point. We have 3 very important offices. They carry important functions. They're a stepping off place to what? To run for governor and U.S. Senate, yet they're elected in a presidential election year, and instead of putting them in another cycle where the voters would actually know something about them, they're stuck in a presidential election where the voters know very little about them because of the dominance of the presidential election.
Very little attention is paid to him, and that was one of the criticisms of Kathleen Kane, that the media and others hadn't vetted her fully enough.
Yeah, good point.
It's true. I mean, that a lot of reporters covering the Capitol didn't have time to focus on that with other races out there. And
all right, thanks. We're out of time. We'll have you guys back, and hopefully not to talk about corruption, but something else. We'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.